It's mailbag time today on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. My good friend and colleague, Adam King, will be joining us in about 75 seconds. Welcome to the show. I'm Dan Bespris. Take a moment, hit that like button as you settle in. Obviously, subscribe to the channel. And if you have a moment, check out our friends at Bet Online. The Super Bowl might be over, but betting season has just begun. And Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned bettor or a first-timer, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. They've got odds, they've got live odds, they've got props, they've got all kinds of stuff on everything from NBA to college basketball, NHL, UFC, baseball's right around the corner. Thus, from every three-pointer to every hat trick, BetOnline has you covered. I always like to spin this one while you cover. I see what I do there? With odds, stats, and more on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline. The game starts here. Here is the great Kingy. They call him Kingy. He's Adam King, and he might be down a leg right now. Adam King, I don't know how you managed to get yourself to the chair where we're doing our show, but it sounds like you may have blown a tire.
I started the trek about 20 minutes ago of maneuvering my way through the house up to the chair. But we're here, and it's not like I can do anything else at the moment. I could sit.
We're thinking good thoughts for Adam King, who foolishly, despite being an old man squad human, tried to play a sport and now perhaps suffering the brutal consequences thereof. And we're going to get into the questions here in a second, but you haven't got your scans yet. Didn't you tore an ACL? How many years ago was the first one? 3. And so now we're hoping that this is not number 2.
No, it's almost 3 years to the day, actually, because I did it. The first time I did it was the very first game of the season, the basketball season. Last night was the second game of the season. So, very innocuous.
Could I interest you perhaps in taking up golf instead?
I won't be playing basketball anymore. That's it for my playing career. So yes, it will probably be golf.
Yeah, you will. We'll go. We'll hopefully walk a course when you're in the States, if you're allowed to walk by then.
I hope so.
Kingy and I went through your mailbag. Everybody, thank you for the questions submitted. There were some 30-odd questions on the tweet we sent out yesterday, which, again, you can find us on social media. I'm at Dan Bespris on Twitter. Adam is at AdamKing91 on all social media platforms. I'm Old Man Squad over on the new Blue Sky Network, because someone else took Dan Bespris. I don't know who this scoundrel is, but they're squatting on it like I care. So I just think it's weird. And as we were going through the questions, you and I actually each landed on the same one. So we're going to start with this question. We're going to give it a little extra airtime because we both thought it was kind of relevant right now. We're going into the All-Star break. Fantasy playoffs for a lot of folks start basically right on the other side of it. For others, a week or two later. But either way, it's close. And the question from Henny Minnie is, how many streaming spots would you have for your fantasy playoffs? Henny Minnie says 1 or 2. But Adam, I leave it even more open-ended. How many would you have? Up to 7 or 8, as the situation dictates. How do you handle streaming going into the playoffs?
So it's a very, I guess, nuanced question. It could, because it does depend on roster depth, league size, all of that sort of stuff.
Just talk 12.
Let's talk standard.
4 moves a week, basically.
Yeah. Yep. So I think, for me, it probably does change a bit during the playoffs. So I think for me, there's a shift from regular season to playoffs where I would possibly open up an extra streaming spot in the playoffs. So that would be moving. And based on that, regular season, I like to have at least one. I'm just thinking of my teams, probably 2. So I would say heading into the playoffs, you could even open up 3. Have a look at, if we're looking at a 12-team, 13, 14 roster spots, 8 active maybe. So 8 active, 5 or 6 bench spots. I'd be trying to lock in, 1 to 2 bench spots and then the rest streaming. Obviously, we pay fairly close attention to schedule during the playoffs because you're really wanting to maximize games played. But yeah, I think I sit on 2 at least. I would definitely have more than one. And as you said, let's make this an open-ended question and go possibly 3. 4 is probably too much. With only 4 moves a week,
Yeah.
that's going to be tough.
What do you think this is? Some sort of carnival?
Yeah.
No, but I'm actually inclined to agree with you on this one. I think we see somewhat eye to eye. My ways of getting there are probably a little bit different. Folks that listen to my show regularly know that I believe in something called long streaming on the head-to-head side, which I haven't yet registered for the trademark or the patent on that. But basically, the concept is I'm not making a streaming move unless it's a player I'm planning on holding for at least 4 days. So I'm not making a move for a back-to-back unless there's a third game in 4 nights associated with it. And in a perfect world, the moves I'm making are for 6, 7, or 9 days. Come playoff time, that actually really does give you a ridiculous amount of leeway in how many spots you're technically streaming, even though to an outsider looking at the roster, they're going to see the same player on it for 6, 7, 8, 9 days. It almost doesn't look like a streaming slot anymore. So for me, I start at 3 in the playoffs. My typical math equation for it is just divide your weekly moves in half and add 1. So 4 divided by 2 plus 1 is 3. Because for that, I'm going to use a move on someone, and it's going to take through the whole week. So I don't need to worry about that slot anymore. That's done. I still have 3 moves left. I also think come playoff time, and again, this gets into the weeds a little bit, and it's not technically true streaming. You're going to have guys that get hurt in the playoffs, and it's going to be the crappy game time decision for 3 consecutive games kind of hurt where you're sitting on the fence. You can't hold those guys for 5 days taking zeros. That becomes a streaming slot. And suddenly, unfortunately, a lot of the time, that ends up being a player that was pretty useful for your club, like a late mid-rounder, a top 75, 85 kind of guy who's just turned an ankle. We don't know if they're going to play. And if you get a no for a Tuesday, you probably have to punt on them. Pick up somebody who's got 4 games the rest of the week. So for me, I actually usually start at 3, and I potentially even go higher than that because sometimes I don't even use a move on one of my streaming slots for an entire playoff week. So definitely more than 1. You and I are very much in line with that. You said sometimes go to 3. I say almost definitely go to 3. But again, it comes down to how you use the moves. If you're streaming for 3 or 4 days on a pickup, you can't do 4. Like you'll run out of moves by Wednesday. But if you're holding somebody for 8, you can.
As we said with league settings and things like that, if you're in a league that has unlimited moves,
I hate
that. Then go to 4. Hell, go to 5 because there's usually in a league like that where anyone can just add drop freely with no consequences. You will find that the waiver wire in a league like that will be bountiful. Let's say when it comes to value, it's not going to be hunting around and saying, "Oh, Tim Hardaway Jr.'s on a back-to-back, and I need some threes." You will get players like Malik Beasley. I mean, that's a weird example. Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway.
You got mind on Detroit
on Detroit
right now.
But Beasley, who's been very good this year, so he's a hold in most leagues. But in a league where there's unlimited moves, he has one bad game. Someone will go, he could be on a poor run here. I'll just drop him and pick up someone else. Yeah. So in a league that has unlimited moves, just go for it and keep your must roster kind of top 70, top 80 players. Beyond that, just stream away.
Yeah, those leagues drive me insane. The whole waiver wire is on waivers instead of free agents too, because everybody's been picked up and dropped every single day. And I hope you're ready to be awake at 12:01 Pacific time every single day during your playoffs in a league like that. But it's funny too, and well, I don't know if we need to go too far down this path because you and I each have some questions to cover, but that's another part of it. Adam, I'll ask you this one. When do you usually make your moves when you're streaming in the playoffs? I tend to try to wait until later in the day, which I realize might cost me the best options, but it does keep me from accidentally picking up someone who gets ruled out an hour before the game starts.
Yeah. Again, depends on league settings, I think. I mean, I'm in leagues where you can't make a pickup until after the games have finished. And then do you have a bidding system? Is it just a free-for-all? A bidding system is usually going to mean that waivers clear at, I don't know, midday the next day, or as it's 12:01 Pacific. I mean, my leagues, I guess I'm thinking my leagues here, and we set our waiver times a little bit different because we're not awake
Yeah.
when the US is awake. So yeah, I think it does depend. But yes, I tend to hold off on my ads at least until the games are done, because as you said, we don't.
Yeah.
I mean, look at last night, for example. We had about 8 or 9 players go down in the space of 2 hours or something like that, and not just go down with, oh, I've got a bit of a sore knee here, I'll sit out the rest of the game. We had some pretty potentially significant time-consuming injuries. So yeah, hopefully no one went and added someone that then got injured. But yeah, I do like to wait, and vice versa. You might add someone, and then later in the day, a player goes down, and you go, man, I should have waited because I could have then added the player that is going to fill in for this injured player. So there's lots of techniques and strategies, but generally, yes, I like to wait.
All right, now we're going to bounce back and forth. You and I each have 2 more to go over. I'll go to one of mine first because your last one actually fits the bill. It's kind of like a nice last question. This is from Foster Films. We saw Curry go really well yesterday with Jimmy on the team. Is this how you think he'll likely go rest of season, or was this just a one-off and he'll regress on his current average? I personally am very high on the fit that Jimmy Butler brings to the Warriors. I think everybody kind of forgot that Jimmy Butler's really, really, really good at basketball. He's just not that great at caring all the time. He is in Jimmy Butler cares, hashtag Jimmy Butler cares mode right now. And that's going to change everything for Curry because now they have a legit drive threat. And just like Warriors overall right now, they have an interesting blend of guys who can and can't space the floor, guy who attacks, guy who doesn't, which I'm high on the fit, and it also makes me grotesquely high on Buddy Hield. Well, I know it wasn't the question about him, but for the moment, they actually need him to create some space for these other guys. So I'm up on the Warriors as a group, as like the guys that are playing right now. I think they're all in really good shape. Where do you stand on the Jimmy Butler Warriors?
Yeah, look, I agree. He definitely makes them better. Does he take them to championship level? I don't think so, but
No.
certainly better than what they've been. They really don't have a center at this point. They have centers, but not a center that I would say is reliable and proven. So yeah, I think there's gonna be some issues there, but yeah, look, Steph's look good, Jimmy's look good. The knees are always a bit of a concern for Jimmy Butler, but you also worry about, I mean, you'd hope not, but having played in Miami this season and being relatively unhappy, have the absences that were related to injuries earlier in the season, are they just the team sort of saying, well, yeah, we don't really want you out there anyway because you're bringing down the culture and the mood and that sort of thing. So he's looked good so far. And as you said, it does help Buddy Hield, at least from an opportunity standpoint. Whether Buddy Hield can actually do something with that opportunity, we will see. But they certainly need some floor spacing out there to allow Jimmy to go to work.
Yeah, I think Steph Curry's field goal percent trends up in the wake of this stuff. So I am for it. Let's go to your first question. This is from our longtime listener, Brandon. Is a 3-punt possible with mostly guards? This one is so right up in your wheelhouse, Adam. We're talking to Adam King, of course, Adam King 91 on social media, and my good friend. How do you take care of position eligibility with many centers not fitting the build of a punt, field goal / turnover team, which I guess is 2 of the 3 punts? I'm assuming the other one is either blocks or rebounds, but basically just a smalls team. How do you conquer the position eligibility issues of a smalls team? Because there really are very few big guys that fit into that mold perfectly.
Yeah, there aren't a lot. You do get to know them once you've done. This is a punt that I frequently do, and I actually do a 4 punt usually with this, and I punt field goal percentage, turnovers, blocks, and rebounds. So then you're basically looking at centers and forwards that give you guard type stats. It does depend a little bit on your league settings. If you're in one of those stupid Yahoo leagues that has a 4-center max, then that's good because you run with 1 center. I would not be afraid to run with 1 center. You probably want 2, just so that you don't have days where there's all these games playing and your center happens to not be playing, so you have a roster spot just sitting empty. So I would recommend going after 2 centers. But yeah, look, I've pulled up 2 leagues here where I'm doing this punt, and in one of them, I am coming second in the league. So it is possible to punt 4 categories and still finish in the top echelon. Look for those players that weirdly have center eligibility that you probably think shouldn't, but they do for whatever reason. Pascal Siakam is one. Does he ever play center? Not really, but he has center eligibility on Fantrax. So he's a good one. Obviously, you've got your guys like Brook Lopez. I guess think 3-point shooting centers who hit free throws. That's really what you're looking for. The challenge can be finding centers that hit free throws as well, because there's some that will hit threes but aren't great at free throws. Pascal Siakam is an example of that. He's not terrible, but he's only at sort of 77%. And in a build like this, you really want to be going for 83 probably across the board. So, yeah, but that's salvageable if you've drafted a lot of guards that are 84, 85, 86% from the free throw line. You can absorb someone like a Pascal Siakam. Miles Turner, I mean, if that was the question, wasn't it? What players are we looking at? I mean, well, no, the question is it possible? Yes, it is. And I would target those centers. Vooch is another good one.
What do you do if you miss out on those guys? How do you rectify that mid-season?
It's
trade.
Yeah, a trade. It's tough if you're new to doing a punt like this. It's tricky to know when you're drafting. When do I pull the trigger on a center? Because if you wait till the 80s, 90s, that sort of 6th, 7th round, you load up on guards, you've filled points, threes, assists, steals, free throws, you're really good, but then you're forced to draft a center that's really not going to help you at all. Or I did a punt like this and I drafted Nikola Jokic. So my first pick, I got my center out of the way and done. Karl Anthony Towns is another one you could use. Obviously, one of their strengths is rebounds. Both are elite rebounding players, but neither of them are good shot blockers. They're good. Well, Jokic especially is good in terms of steals. They're both good at free throws. They hit threes, and they get assists. Obviously, Jokic a lot more than Towns, but you then get your center out of the way. You're done, and you can then just focus purely on guards and wings for the next 5, 6 picks, and then maybe you can land someone in the 80s or 90s who is at least just a fill-in, plug-in kind of a center on those nights when Cat is not playing or Jokic is not playing. Let me just have a look.
You really need those like key bigs that you draft in this build to stay healthy, because you're not going to find a ton of them floating around on the wire. I mean, I'm sure some will pop up here as we approach silly season, but
so in that league where I drafted Jokic first, and this was a league that we redrafted about 3 weeks ago. So, but Jokic is obviously still, he was the second. I had the second pick, so I took Jokic, and then I think with my 3rd round pick, maybe I drafted Jalen Williams because he has center eligibility as well. And he's a great fit. He doesn't get a lot of rebounds, but I don't care. He gets steals, he gets threes, he hits his free throws, he gets some assists. So have a look, be aware of those players, as I said, that weirdly have center eligibility for whatever reason. Don't question it, just draft them. One thing I would say is just be cautious. If you're drafting on one platform to then play out the league on another, so a lot of leagues I'm in, they do the draft in Fantrax because you can do slow drafts, but then they shift their league over to Yahoo. The settings don't match up. The player eligibility doesn't match up. So make sure that if you're drafting in Fantrax and you're looking at someone who has center eligibility, go and check Yahoo because you may end up having a team that has no centers and then you're in trouble.
Good advice. Moving over to the next one. This is my second. This is my last one, I guess, since you and I actually wanted to do the same first question. This is from Archie. What are your thoughts on Mark Williams failing his physical? Something surely has to be bad enough that the Lakers won't even give it a go. Do the Hornets keep playing him till he gets KO'd? This is an absurd situation. So Archie brings up a great question that I don't know that you and I are going to have a perfect answer to, but all we can do is kind of do our best because this type of stuff doesn't happen all that often. And I can't ever remember a team. I can remember guys failing physicals and things falling through. That's happened before, but I can't remember when the other team, in this case, the Hornets, says, screw you. He didn't fail the physical, or it's nothing new. It's things you already knew about. We are going to reject your rejection. And I don't know what recourses they have at this point because a doctor did a physical and we'll get the news at some point. But now the Hornets are saying, no, you got to take him. We want your pick. We want Dalton Connect. So this is super weird. I don't know how this is going to play out. My best guess is that the Hornets are going to lose this challenge because if the Lakers, and I think it's I don't think it's a Lakers doctor that does the physical. I think it's like a league doctor that does the one on trades so that it's kind of an unbiased deal. If they found something that wasn't previously disclosed, it could almost be anything that the Lakers could say that's a reason that we don't want to go through with this anymore. So I think that over the next week, we have the All-Star break coming up. So there's this nice little buffer for weirdness to take place without impacting as many games. I think Mark Williams does end up back on the Hornets. I think they'll play him because the team is bad and they're going to lose sort of with or without most of the guys that they're rolling out there. But he's going to have days off down the stretch that he wasn't going to get on the Lakers. So fantasy-wise, this is probably a downgrade for him. And for the Lakers, the fact that they found something that was significant enough that they canceled this trade and they're like, it's fine, we're going to make a run at it with Jackson Hayes, to me says it was something. So like keeper dynasty type stuff, I'd be pretty worried about Mark Williams. Redraft, I think you'll probably get some games out of him on the Hornets down the stretch. And then Shams just went on ESPN and said the Lakers are going to sign someone in the buyout market in the next 1 to 2 days. So that whole situation is also still in flux. But I'm not dropping Mark Williams. I'm not that interested in Jackson Hayes. I did definitely drop Dalton Connect, and I'm hanging on to Moussa Diabate until we figure out what the hell's going on in the meantime, with the note in the back of my mind that Diabate probably ends up kind of getting cooked at some point by either Williams or Nurkic or both. But we play fantasy in like, Adam, distinct quanta of time, little packets, 5 days at a time, 3 days at a time, 1 week, whatever. And for right now, Diabate's playable. Mark Williams is a hold. That's where I sit on this whole thing. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, as you said, it's happened before, failing physicals. I think the fact that this happened after the deadline, it would have been interesting if this had happened prior to the deadline, and would the Lakers have just sought some other compensation or not taken back a draft pick or something like that? Would that have been enough to allow this to go through? We'll never know. Look, I'm 100%, I guess, in agreement with you. It's a weird situation. We don't know what's going to happen. I would assume the Lakers did their due diligence and this was a thorough sort of process. And the fact that the Hornets are coming at them now and questioning it, I would hope that they'd have plenty of evidence to say, no, well, look, these are the reports. And whether we actually get to see them ever, I don't know. It might all be done behind closed doors. My concern here, I guess, from not even a fantasy standpoint, is just how is this impacting Mark Williams? Because the Hornets didn't want him. He went to the Lakers. They found stuff which potentially he didn't even know was there. I mean, we don't know. So they've then rejected him back to the Hornets, who are then saying, well, no, we don't want him back. You take him. We want your draft pick. So what is this doing to him mentally? Like, he just, how is he going to, I would hope that he will just come out and be very, very annoyed and want to prove himself, and I'm healthy and I can play, and probably it's hard to see after a situation like this him sticking in Charlotte long term unless they're able to mend stuff behind, sort of under the table, and we're all good. But yeah, I do think he comes back to Charlotte this year and plays and isn't going to play back-to-backs. But I just really hope that this doesn't derail. I put this on Twitter. It doesn't derail what's been, injuries aside, a very good year for Mark Williams.
Yeah, I got a Roto team that is, and this is a bad spot to be in. I have only myself to blame, but that team's chance of taking home probably second place is probably not going to get all the way to first. Pretty much hinges on Mark Williams playing, because that 59% field goal on 10 plus shots per game, that's where all the Roto points are sitting for that team. I need rebounds and I need field goal percent, and that's how I climb the ranks. And I've thrown a lot of what I think are pretty fair trade offers out there. Things like Jalen Williams for Evan Mobley, just simple like 1-for-1s of guys that ranked around 20 to 25. Nobody wants anything to do with it. Everybody's being a dick. So I need you, Mark Williams. Please come back. And don't let the fact that the Hornets are douches and don't run an organization. Don't let that ruin your year, bud. And also don't try to prove everybody wrong, because then you're going to pull an adductor like Anthony Davis did, and then you're going to miss a month. Okay. Your final question is outside the fantasy realm. Ooh, we can do that too. It's allowed. I'm sure everybody's going to turn the show off right now. Before you turn the show off, remember to subscribe to the Old Man Squad Sports Network and follow Adam at AdamKing91. Hey, promo me. What are you working on right now? Besides rehab.
It's pending.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can still keep doing shows. This will obviously depend on whether I have surgery. There might be some time where I can't do stuff, but look, I should be able to keep doing most things. So shows will be rolling out, whether it's daily, semi-daily, I'm not too sure yet. Articles over on RotoWire, I can keep writing those because I can put the laptop on my lap while I'm sitting watching whatever I'm watching. So that it should just be business as usual, but maybe a slightly modified schedule. That's to be confirmed.
Poor Adam. Poor Adam.
I just hope I can get to the States. That's as soon as I do the injury.
Can you fly 5 months after? Because that's about 5 months, right?
Yeah, I hope so. When I did the injury, straight away I thought, okay, I think I know what I've done. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. My first thought went to, my wife is going to be very pissed off at me. And I was right. And I was right. And then the second one was, man, I have booked flights and accommodation, a lot of which are non-refundable to the US. So let's just get this moving and figure out what needs to happen. And look, maybe it is that I have the surgery when I get back. That could be an option as well if I do need to have surgery. But yeah, as I said, to be confirmed.
Oh, man. All right. Well, here's the best segue I've ever done in podcast history. NBA Finals predictions. Do you think, Adam, the Thunder have what it takes to get through the playoffs? And then what about out east? Are the Celtics, I mean, we know they're good, but are they and they almost got burned by this last year. They squeezed through and then everything fell right into place. Are they so reliant on the 3-point shot that maybe there's an opening there for the Knicks or the Cavs or something like that? It feels, and maybe it doesn't turn out to be this way, but it sure feels like a lot of teams have a shot at it this year.
Yeah, it's I mean, if we start in the East, Cleveland have been a very interesting team because obviously are they best record in the league?
I think they're behind the Thunder. Yeah, behind the Thunder by a half game.
Just. So, and look, they've stumbled a little bit of late, which coming into the All-Star break, that was always going to happen. People were talking about, are they going to break that record that the Warriors set? No, they're not. but they're a very good team, and I've been skeptical all season because primarily because they just didn't really make any changes from last year, and they've just been better. They just have a good coach. They seem to be playing for each other. Darius Garland, obviously being healthy and playing well, has been a big reason, and Evan Mobley has finally taken that leap to sort of being an elite big. So things have obviously worked out really well for them. In the back of my mind, I think for a lot of us, we just think, Boston will get this done. Like Boston are good enough that when we get to the playoffs, they will win. But as you said, they're heavily reliant on three. Derek White is not playing well at the moment. They've got a few niggling injuries. I don't think they're anything serious. I think it's more rest. So I think it'll be Boston, Cleveland in the East. I'm just not sure about the Knicks. One injury and they're cooked. As we know, they run a fairly shallow rotation. And I don't see the Pacers. Look, Bucks, I guess, if Giannis can get healthy and they can just catch fire at the right time, are a bit of a dark horse. But I think it'll be Cleveland, Boston. And then in the West, I think it has to be the Thunder. I mean, we've seen how good they've looked how good they've looked all season. And then Chet's come back and they've looked even better. So I think it'll be them. And then beyond them, it's really hard in the West because I think it could be, you could make an argument, I think, for Memphis, Denver, maybe the Lakers, Rockets, I'm not sure, Wolves, Mavericks, if they can get healthy. But they obviously need to actually make the playoffs first with their injury report at the moment.
Not great.
Not great. And they're
basically the Mavericks have turned their team into your punt bigs fantasy roster.
They have, yeah. And probably a little bit harder to win punting big men in real life basketball.
That's true.
But they're only, the Spurs are sort of thereabouts, but there's a chance that Dallas fall out of the top 10 here and don't even get a play-in shot. So I think it'll be the Thunder and I think it'll be Boston, but Cleveland are growing on me just as a unit. They just play very well together. They've brought in DeAndre Hunter, obviously, as to play that sixth man role. Lost Karis LeVert, but Ty Jerome has been very good this year. So, I do think it will be the Thunder. But I talked about the Lakers. I'm intrigued to see what the Lakers do here. They're going to, obviously, you just said, look at getting someone in the buyout market. It's not going to be anyone that's going to come in and win them a championship because those players just aren't available in the buyout market. But are they just going to run a lot of small ball with that? They did it last night, and it is going to be very hard to guard a Lakers team with Austin Reeves, LeBron James, and Luka Doncic. I still can't believe Luka is playing for the Lakers.
Yeah, it was awesome. He was moving like molasses out there after 2 months off, and it was still awesome.
Anyway, but that's where I sit. So what about you?
Yeah, I'm with you on Boston out east. I've been watching a lot of Cavs games lately, even though there's not a whole lot of fantasy stuff to dig into there, just more to get a feel for who they are. And I love what they're doing. But I do feel like the playoffs are going to – I think they're going to go – I mean, they're going to have more success than they had in the past. And Kenny Atkinson deserves a crap ton of credit for that. But I think the Celtics ultimately get past the Cavs. The West, I think, is more open than you do. The Thunder are very, very good. Their defense is amazing. But I also think that some of the stuff that they rely on is going to get tougher come playoff time. It's going to be asking a ton out of Shea, which doesn't mean I think they're not going to have a great run at it. I just think that what they're doing in this regular season, it's going to have some translate issues that I've talked about with the Grizzlies in the past, where I thought what they were doing in the regular season wasn't going to translate that well to the postseason, and that's kind of what happened. The Thunder have an edge on what Memphis did because their defense is much better. So I think Thunder, Nuggets, I think have a really good shot out west because Jokic is unstoppable, especially when the game slows down. I think the Lakers' half-court offense come playoff time is going to be pretty tough, but like you said, what is this big man? My thought on the Lakers side is like, someone out there, agents are talking to agents, and there are big men on like middling teams in the Eastern Conference that are playing right now that maybe can just convince the team to give them a buyout for goodwill or something like that.
Yeah.
Like Larry Nance comes to mind. What the hell is he doing in Atlanta? They
Yeah.
shouldn't buy him out. By all accounts, they should not buy him out. But I don't know what agents are doing behind the scenes. Like right now, a lot of decent big men on bad teams are looking at the Lakers going, not only can I make a run in the playoffs, but I can be a feature player on a Luka Doncic, LeBron James team. And all I have to do is just change jerseys. One of those guys I think is going to show up. So everybody's talking about how like Alex Len is not going to be the savior. I think there's going to be some weird little like name out of nowhere with LA. It's not going to be a great player, but it's going to be an alternative to Jackson Hayes. So I think the Lakers actually have a shot. There's going to be like they got 2 months to figure out the chemistry thing, so there might not be enough time, and they might not be big enough, so that could be the issue there. I don't think the Wolves have it this year. Like you, the Mavericks would be the team in that next chunk that I would think is the most frightening with Kyrie and Anthony Davis. But again, they've got to make the playoffs. They've got to get their front court all healthy at the same time because Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, Anthony Davis, PJ Washington are all out right now.
Yeah.
Rockets got to figure out how to score. Their defense is amazing, but they got to figure out how to score. Clippers are coming kind of back to earth. So I don't know. Right now, if you look at it, the Nuggets, they're the 3 seed. The Lakers and Thunder would have to play in the conference semis. Not, I mean, again, you got to get there, but like if you're just looking at the way the breakdown is at the moment, so that would maybe determine, but it feels like that gives the Nuggets a pretty good shot to get to the Western Conference Finals. Are they deep enough? Who cares in the playoffs? You don't play deep in the playoffs.
No.
You had a good top 5. So I don't know. I'll go out on a limb and I'll say Nuggets over the Thunder. Not out on a limb, I guess, because Jokic and Shea are probably the 2 best players on earth right now. But I'm gonna give the Thunder 1 more year before they make that true run. This is like we've figured out the regular season season, and then you'll have the how do we get past like a Nikola Jokic type season. And that is effectively the mailbag, ladies and gentlemen. I have to go pick up my kid. So Adam, good luck, buddy. I mean, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say. I'm thinking good thoughts. I hope the scans come back with something less devastating than what we're thinking.
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't know if I'll get them today. It probably takes a bit of time I can't remember from the last time I did it how long it was till I got scans and saw surgeons and things like that. But yeah, hopefully it's not that bad, and it might just be a few weeks and not.
Old man squad.
Yeah,
on the
I could be the new logo, couldn't I? Just
be
both knees bandaged up and.
Kingy. I'm sorry, bud.
I mean, to be, I guess a positive that my surgically repaired knee held up quite well.
Yeah, great. You're only
had
half
any issues with
bionic.
that.
So. You go full bionic now.
Yeah.
Good luck, bud. I'll talk to you very soon. Let me know how it goes.
Will do. Thanks, Dan.
Want to remind you guys to come hang out with us and our friends at UnderdogFantasy.com. Use promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, or just click the link in the show description. That's the easiest way to do it. That will unlock a deposit match bonus up to $1,000. It's at a 50% clip and a free pick on that first card you put together for your pick'em sheet. Meaning, instead of needing to do 2, you really only need to do 1, and you can 3x whatever you put down on it. It's really the nice thing about it is, and I've said this before, I don't like DFS. I have no problem with those who play it. I think they're amazing, but it's too confusing for me. There's just too many puzzle pieces to try to put together every single day when I'm a full season guy. But every once in a while, you see angles on 1, 2, 3 guys on a slate, and you just want to use those guys and not worry about the other 80 players going. That's where this comes in. You just hunt down the guys that make the most sense. You like higher, you like lower. They've got a whole laundry list of projections on each guy, and you can see it. YouTubers on your screen. They've got points, they've got PRA, they got rebounds, they got assists, they got points in the first 5 minutes, they got first quarter, they got second quarter, all this kind of stuff. That's all you need. So check them out today. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code OLDMAN, or click the link in the show description. Before I ask you guys to like and subscribe. There was one other question I wanted to throw in. It's a Roto question, so I wanted to let Adam go before I did it. This is from Andy. First year playing Roto. At this point of the season, is there such a thing as being too far behind to catch up over multiple categories? The answer, Andy, is no. Look and see games played being some of the biggest pieces of this attack for you. See if you're behind other teams in games played, and then make adjustments. There was a year, and I've told this story on the show many times over the last few years. There was a season where I checked it out and I looked at the average production per game played for my Roto team. And I could tell that compared to other clubs, even though I was like 200 rebounds behind, because I was like 20 some odd games behind, there was still a pathway there. It was going to be a crazy one, but it was one. So I started benching guys, like top dudes. I think that year, Damian Lillard, I benched for a day because he was averaging like 4 rebounds, but Patrick Beverley was averaging like 8.5. And so I played Pat Beverley over Damian Lillard, but it worked because my team had such a big lead in 3-pointers and free throws were totally fine. All I needed was rebounds. And so all of a sudden, my guard spots were rebounders. My forward spots were rebounders. My center spots, my utility. I just had rebounders everywhere. And I was watching the average per game played every single day. I had to use Excel to create this thing. And all of a sudden, I was actually ahead of like 2 or 3 teams in average rebounds per position. And then I was able to dial it back down again. I didn't use rebounders at every position. I just held at that point. And over time, over the last month, suddenly I was closing the gap. And on the last 2 days of the regular season, I passed 4 teams in rebounds, and I went from 3rd to 1st place. It was one of my favorite moments in all of my fantasy basketball play. So no, I mean, yes, there is such a thing as being too far behind. Like if you're multiple thousand points behind somebody, you're going to punt that category. But, pick something, Andy, and punt it, but don't punt them all. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is Mailbag time with my good friend, Adam King. Thank you to Kingy, Adam King91 on social media. I am at Dan Vespers on Twitter, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. Like, rate, subscribe. I got to go pick up my kid before they just throw him out into the street and ask where the hell dad is. You guys are the best. I love the fact that we continue to grow here. I will give you all a heads up about what I'm doing over the All-Star break in the next day or two, but the answer is not as much as usual. I'm Dan for Old Man Squad and Adam. I'm out. See you guys.